Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to our monthly interview with Egon von Greyerz. This time he seems to be somewhere elsewhere, but I heard he is in Britain. Egon, you are witnessing the Brexit-Chaos. How is it there?
It's just unreal, Jan, totally unreal. You can't, it's a joke, what's happening in Parliament. I mean, democracy is gone now, and the opposition is doing everything to frustrate the process. You know, England hasn't been, or Great Britain hasn't been governed for 3.5 years since there was the referendum to accept the Brexit. And that was accepted by a majority, and the majority should obviously win, and therefore should have been implemented. But they're doing everything they can, the opposition, to frustrate that, and even some of the Conservatives are doing it. So it's just unreal. And in the meantime, and now again they're getting another extension. So we have a country that for now 3.5 years has only talked about Brexit on the news, and no one is running it. So it's very sad, because at the same time, you know, I think Boris Johnson is a brilliant prime minister, and of course he's very popular with the people. But the thing is, hasn't got a majority in Parliament, and therefore he will, you know, if he can have an election, which he's trying to get an election, then they will win most certainly. Anyway, so it's an interesting saga, and then we haven't seen the end yet.
Egon, last time we spoke about silver. That was our main topic, and this video, it really amazed me. We had the most views of all times, and so we get to the silver topic again today. But first, we speak about cryptos. By the way, silver. I found out something that is so unbelievable, but I will put it at the end of the video, and our visitors can be excited when they find out what I found out. But let's talk about the cryptos first. You wrote an article a week ago about, it was a very critical one about cryptos. So similar to what I see, cryptos are not suitable for wealth preservation, not at all. And we find many arguments. I will show them also. But could you summarize why you think they are not suitable for wealth preservation purpose?
Well, you know, for wealth preservation, you have to go back to trusted historical methods that have worked for thousands of years, and methods that will work outside of modern gimmickry, if you want. The modern gimmick is today, that means that we live in a totally electronic world. And that means that if you want to preserve wealth, you shouldn't be dependent on electricity. You shouldn't be dependent on a computer. And the only money that has survived, as you know, is gold, which has, and silver to some extent, which has been around then, especially gold, for 5,000 years, because it's totally independent of as I said, all outside influences, whether that's technological or whether that's interference with systems, etc. So that's why I can't see that. You know, let's say that you are on an island somewhere without electricity, and you need to buy food. And you haven't got internet, you know, and your phone isn't working. You know, if you had a little gold coin, then you'll get a long way. If you don't, you won't get anywhere, because no one's going to be interested in the fact that you might have somewhere in the ether a few cryptos. I think, you know, obviously cryptocurrencies can be good for as a payment system, because it's a relatively efficient payment system. But you have all the risks of cryptos also, and you know, even if it does gain a major success as a payment system, then central banks and governments will stop it. We're now seeing already with Libra. They're attacking Libra, and Libra, the Facebook cryptocurrency, is probably not going to succeed, because, and if it does, it'll be so restricted, for the simple reason, as I said, that there is no way that governments will accept that private, well, organizations take over the control of money and can pay it across borders anywhere and without anybody actually being aware of what's happening. That's just not going to happen, and because we are in asset management and we are managing money and looking after people's wealth, mainly in the form of precious metals. And the compliance we have to go through is just incredible, and that's getting actually worse every day. And and so that is all. We are being controlled totally. We don't have to report the gold holdings of our clients, luckily, yet at least, because but still we have to see that the client's money is totally compliant. But when you look at cryptos, they will most certainly do the same thing. There will be total compliance within crypto also. And so therefore you have to be able to trace the money totally, and you have to be, no exchange is going to be allowed anything if they haven't done total compliance, and payment across borders will not be allowed without total compliance. Also, it's subject to hacking in a major way. We have already, as you are aware, we've seen in this year, there's apparently up 4 billion.
Egon, let me interrupt you here for a moment, because I have some information about exactly this argument. I found an article on Forbes, and they claim that this year alone, they had a financial damage already of 4 billion and something in the first half of this year, and the total damage last year was 1.2 billion or 1.7. The most damage comes here from fraudulent ICOs. If somebody issues such a white paper and they try to create a new currency, then many of them are fraud and people lose their money. But then there's also the danger to become a victim of phishing, that they get your password or corrupt your wallet, and there the damage was 300 million or so. The biggest damage comes from such fraudulent ICOs. So if you are not a real crack in this field and know how to use it, it's a big danger to lose money there. Even if you stick with the big names like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and so. But it's last week we talked about a greater fool. It's good as long as it works and if you know how to play it, I think, in my opinion.
Yes, no, you're right. So the 4 billion sounds enormous, but as you say, the majority of that is new schemes that are scams from the beginning.
Yes.
What they call exit scams. They take the money and then they run away with it, basically. So that is proper fraud. But then you also have, as you say, people break into wallets and exchanges. That's getting tougher. I think, as you said, there's a bit under 300 million only of the crime that relates to that. That's big enough, 300 million for the people who lose it. That's a lot of money. Of course, you have this cold wallets. You take it out of the system and store it offline, etc. So they're working on ways to improve that. Nevertheless, if you lose your lose your wallet and your code, your personal code, then you've lost your money, and that's not really money that I would call wealth preservation money. Okay, it might work for payments, that's fine, but I certainly wouldn't preserve my wealth somewhere on a number of computers around the world where I'm dependent on all these outside measures that we talk about. So therefore, and on top of that, we have the hacking also or Google being able now to break into any wallet within a matter of years. They already, these cryptos are based on 256-bit encryption, and Google can already now, with their supercomputers, break into 56-bit encryption. So it's only a matter of time, a year or two, before they can get into and break the code of the 256-bit encryption, which is Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies. Now, you might say that also all the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, they will up their game and add further encryption and double it, etc. But it is Google has the biggest computers in the world, and they will be ahead in that game eventually. So that will be a major risk also. As I said, I wouldn't keep to have some money for payment, etc. If it's all legal, that's fine on cryptos. But to have your fortune in cryptos, I would never consider that. That's a massive risk of losing all your.
You know, we spoke about it in Germany. They are talking about lowering the ceiling of physical purchases of precious metals to 2,000. And in one article about crypto, I read that the #1 currency in the dark web for criminal activities is Bitcoin. So it's probably even created to support such behavior and to hide activities, and of course to do a big wealth transfer. We said everything about it works, but I don't trust it. Not at all.
No, and that's why governments are never going to accept it in the long run. They're totally aware that it is used for criminality also. They are, and this is why they're also opposed to the Libra now. So that's why I think, remember, you can't compare something that's been around for 15 years or so to something that's been around for 5,000 years. I know all young people today believe that, gold is history, nothing to do with modern methods. And therefore they don't believe in gold. But it is very, very difficult with a 15-year history, which is dependent, as I said, on electronics, computers, electricity, etc. It's very difficult to create a new currency that will take over the world, competing against something that's been only money that has survived for 5,000 years. So I don't think this will be the future of money or of sound money, let's say. It might be a form of money, of course. It won't be the future of sound money because it will, like all other systems, this will have a short life as pure money, as a payment system. It will probably work, but it will be totally controlled by governments and by fiscal authorities, etc.
Egon, now let's come to the silver again. I found out something very interesting, but first of all, I show a graphic that is similar to those we had last time. Here we see the graphic. It's one more argument we presented already a lot last time, why silver is cheap. We have here the XAU, the Philadelphia Gold and Silver Index against the Standard & Poor's 500, and it looks similar as the ones we had. There's a lot of upside. But the real key, what I wanted to show our audience this time is the following.
Can I first comment on this? So this is the XAU index against the S&P, and you can see that it's incredibly oversold, and we are going to see obviously an explosion at some point in this index. But just also. You're not showing that, but also if you look at the chart of the XAU index, Jan, XAU index was launched at 100 in 1983, and today, in 2019, or soon 40 years later, the index is at 90. It's below that point it was launched in 1983 today. So that shows you that it's gone nowhere in a bit under 40 years, which means that the potential is enormous, of course, for this for miners, precious metals miners, and of course for the precious metals also. And that will happen in the next few years. Well, from a wealth preservation point of view, physical is safer than the miners, but the miners, to have a little bit of money in the miners will give you an enormous upside potential.
Now, as I promised at the beginning, I will show our audience what I find out. I love to calculate sometimes, to make some arithmetic and to work with some numbers, and I did this with silver. and other base metals. And what if I told you that silver is cheaper than lead, zinc, and other metals that are used in the industry? It's not a joke, and I will prove it. Here we have a table. I explain it. The first column, I took the production numbers of 2018. Those numbers are completely available. I took the production numbers of gold, silver, and the base metals that are that you can read there. We have a production of gold 3,346, silver 26,000 and something, and lead, copper, zinc, and nickel also. And there is always the production number in tons. The sources of the data are below there. Then there's the price at the end of 2018 in the second column. And because of the base metals are measured in pounds or tons, I have all this calculated in dollars per ounce to make it comparable to silver and gold. Then I have here the amount of the production, how many times of the silver production. Gold is one, of course, and here we have for silver, for instance, it's 7.95 times the production of gold, which leads us to the gold-silver ratio. We have it here. And if silver would be valued according to this production number, it should be 160. This is totally clear, and we talked about that last time, about the huge potential for silver. But what if I calculate or I use the base metals to do similar calculations, which I did? Take, for instance, lead. If you take the price of lead at the end of 2018, you come to 6 cents and something per ounce. So it's really a pure base metal. It's used in the industry only. You have no other use for lead than manufacturing and industry, okay? The lead production is 437 times the production of silver. Simply just divided here the production of silver and lead. And the price of silver is 246 times the price of lead. And if you make a similar calculation like with the gold price and multiply those two columns, those here, the third and the fourth, that leads you to an adjusted silver price of $27.3 if silver would be valued like lead. And I did this with all the other metals, and it comes to those numbers. For our audience, if this is a bit too fast or too difficult, I will put this document below. If you take lead and zinc, those are 100% manufacturing metals. And you see here the total production numbers of lead and zinc are similar, close to 12 million tons per year, right? And the adjusted price is around 30. So if silver would be valued like lead and zinc, it would be around 30 or 33 or 32.
Yeah.
It's even more insane with copper. This, Egon, is for me the proof that the metal that has a monetary component, silver, it has a big manufacturing component, of course, in the high-tech industry, and a monetary component, which those other metals do not have. Maybe a bit in copper and nickel, but it's neglectable. Silver has a monetary component and gold. This is for me the sledgehammer proof that the price of silver is artificially manipulated to the downside, big time. And this is, in my opinion, I consider this the chance of the century or of a lifetime.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and yeah, so you come to a different method of again confirming that gold and silver are, and especially silver, are massively undervalued, and we know that the size of the this manipulation and of the future contracts outstanding. And I haven't got the figure on silver in my head, but I have, which I have quoted before, and which we have shown also, that the fact that gold is traded, $280 billion worth of gold is traded every day, which is obviously almost all paper gold, which is just incredible, because that's twice the S&P, and that's 800 times daily production. So it does show you that there is, and I'm sure that the figures for silver are similar to that. It does show you that, as you say, there are massive manipulation, massive futures contracts, derivatives, etc., that are being used to hold the level of gold and silver so low as we're seeing now. But we will see. It will come, Jan. I mean, I think we've talked about it, and of course, I think 10,000 gold is a given, even in today's money, and 10,000 gold means, you know, if you go down to the ratio of 15, that means 666 silver, $666 silver. And I mean, that's not impossible at all. And that's without hyperinflation, as I said. That's just, that could happen just with normal evolution of the price. And of course, the paper market coming under major pressure and having to cover all their outstanding contract. So we know that. I mean, we've been patient. You know, we've been into gold in a major way for 20 years now. And of course, we've seen a good rise. But the phase that we're going to see now in the next, I don't know how many years, will be 5, 6 years, could be longer. I mean, that will be the explosive phase of gold and silver. And that's when we're going to see real moves of a magnitude that you know, no one can imagine. But you know, remember, we are not in gold and silver to speculate, because we are into the physical gold and silver, as you know, Jan, just to preserve wealth and insure yourself against a pretty tough time that we will see in the world economy in the next few years. It's not just the UK and the Brexit that we initially talked about, which has problems. I mean, we know that the whole world has problems, including Germany, massive problems. And especially now with the German banks, which we have talked about many times. So it's worldwide, and that the metals prices, I'm sure, will reflect that in the next few years in a major way. And they will be the most important thing to hold for wealth preservation purposes, gold and silver, of course.
Egon, let me give our audience a note for at the end. In 3 weeks, there is the Edelmetallmesse in Munich, and you will give your presentation on Saturday, 3:15. So all people who want to see you live, I invite them to come to the MVG Museum in Munich in Bavaria. And you have your own booth there, and I'm sure you are expecting many people who want to talk to you about storing gold and silver in Switzerland with your company and other questions. I think it will be an interesting event, and I'm looking forward to meeting you again, and I expect you will have a busy time there.
It's a fantastic show. I like it. You know, I was there, as you say, last year, and I was there a number of years ago also. And I think this is the time to come and learn more about gold and silver, and to meet all the people that you have there, exhibitors, speakers, etc. Fantastic setup, and a fantastic group of speakers. And of course, everyone is welcome to our booth and speak to us there, and we will help everybody in any way we can.
Egon, I see you in 3 weeks. Have a good flight to Australia and back, and see you then, and have a good time. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Jan. As always, good to speak to you.
Yes, a pleasure. Bye.